New crime and punishment system.
Yeah.
Great, isn't it?
Oh, it's perfect. It's doing exactly what it was intended, which is getting me to play another game instead of Elite.
Right, right. Entirely the point of the system, I'm certain. Still, one thing at a time. One thing. one problem at a time.
No, all the things at a time. When you do it all at once, and then you don't have to worry about anything else.
No, because, like, let's be honest, Frontier don't have the resources to do everything, so, you know. And to be fair, until the latest thing, it sounded exciting, and then this new thing came up, yeah, but as I said, we're going to go aside and talk about that very, very shortly, and hopefully, this will be super interesting. You know how to fix FDev's resource problem. Unless it involves them being bought by a Russian billionaire who for some strange reason has declared Elite Dangerous his passion project, I don't think it's going to happen.
Or a Chinese billionaire.
Yeah. Although, interestingly, in England, there's a thing going on at the moment with a Russian billionaire who may now be becoming Israeli because we won't give him a visa to come to the UK because he's Russian. Politics.
I know,
Great
right?
fun. Bring out a 27k ship skin. Do you know what the worst thing is? Even if they did it as an April Fool's joke, yeah, and I could see Frontier doing that, you know, just being like, "Lols, 27 grand for a ship skin on April Fool's Day, just as a joke."
Somebody would buy it.
Someone would buy it. You know they would.
Yep.
If it was a unicorn one, I know someone it would get bought for by the community.
Yeah, I think that'd get crowdfunded.
No, even if it was a fucking ship skin that literally was like, I'm an idiot and I paid £27,000 for this skin, laugh at me, people would buy it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, here's the way I kind of look at that though. Like, what's wrong with that? If somebody has the disposable income to spend $27,000 for a joke skin, right, regardless of what it is, and they actually want to spend that money, it's their money. They get to do with it as they see fit. And FDev then makes a very large sum of money as a result, in comparison to other things purchased on the store. So it benefits them overall. I mean, that's almost what that's almost a salary for one person.
Let's stop talking about this before we give Frontier ideas.
I'm just saying, it's not like there's nothing wrong. Like, I think it's a silly idea. I think it's silly, right? Obviously, but there's nothing wrong with it.
Like, people... look, it starts.
Sorry. No, we aren't even starting that conversation. Right, I am moving us aside.
No, okay, hold up.
Yeah, I am moving us aside. Shut up. End.
Well, we're 1 minute past our time, by the way.
I know.
User left your channel.
Rest in peace.
User was moved out of your channel.
Here, get it all done, and everyone's shouting at me, and
everyone's shouting
and
yelling
to your channel.
There.
We're trying to start an argument about ship skins.
I was about to say. So Yamiks, how would you feel if Frontier sold a £27,000 ship skin? Oh. I want to hear his response to that.
Yamiks would melt down.
I mean, I think it's silly and ridiculous, but there's nothing wrong with it in Elite.
I would very much disagree with that, but
yeah, I would as well in a lot of ways.
Because
Although I would take all of that complaint away if it was a £27,000 ship skin where the money went to charity.
But I mean, you could just fucking donate the money to charity. It's not like any of the ship skins are fucking any good, really. Just the Black Friday one is good. That's it.
And the cow T9 skin that they auctioned off.
Yeah, that's actually a good one.
Yeah, they made a lot of money for charity off of that, and I was completely okay with them doing that. Like, completely
I'm alright with that.
Okay with them doing that. So,
I mean, I just don't think that that's a smart business plan for them.
I agree with you, but let's get Yamiks' opinion. So,
yes,
Yamiks, hot take. How would you feel if Frontier sold a ship skin for £27,000?
27,000. So we're talking about one ship skin, as you said, or
a single ship skin. A single ship
skin. All right. Yeah. So if
this started as a facetious thing and has actually turned into a moderately interesting conversation.
Question then continuing on from that point. How valuable is $1 at that point?
It's like $1.3 to a pound, I think.
Yeah. In real world, this is real world. Yeah.
So okay, so for one skin, that would be an absolute scandal in modern age. About gaming as a general thing. Of course.
So here's two side things to that then. First of all, what if it was only sold on April the 1st?
But if it was still sold as a real thing, and people would actually get it as a real thing, and actually lose money for an actual thing, it doesn't matter if it's a 1st April or not. It's like, you know, I'm gonna rob you. Fuck it, it's the 1st April.
Yeah, okay. So, and then finally, what if instead of all of that, they did do that, but it was for charity? How would you feel about it then?
So basically you're selling something for charity. In that case, it's different. You're actually rather donating your money to charity, and you get as a for your charitable act,
you get a thing.
Cookie. Essentially, that's how it works. It's not buying thing, and then it's an asterisk. It goes to charity. It's charity first, then you get a cookie with that asterisk.
Yeah. That's
like
the Sidewinder skin, the special effects Sidewinder skin that they have as an example. That was why I said, by the way, that was why I kind of took it to the third part of, but what if it's for charity? Because I agree with you, the idea of doing that is disgusting. Simon was saying that if someone wants to pay for it, why not?
I mean, I was saying if somebody has that level of disposable income and that's what they want to spend their money on, then I can't argue with somebody spending their own money.
Yeah.
Just give it to me. Fuck.
Is it a good business practice for Frontier? Is that a look that they would want? I don't think it is.
I don't think so. No, I think that's a bad idea. Well, okay, so let me then.
Why is Frontier here involved? If we're really referencing again, really interesting project
Yamiks. It just came up as someone was trolling, and it turned into an almost serious conversation. As things often do here. They start as a joke, and then the next thing you know, something serious is going on. Anyway. Right, everybody. We have got with us 3 people who know their stuff. And that's why they've been invited along. First of all, we got a pair of content creators. One primarily known from YouTube, and one who has been streaming for so long that he was literally on Twitch before it was Twitch. First of all, you've got Yamiks. Say hi, Yamiks.
I'm impeccable, and no one can make me wrong. Not even DJ with his lack of knowledge of everything.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So there's the ego, everybody. And Simon, good evening, sir.
Good evening as well.
And finally, not a content creator, but somebody who probably has forgotten more about Elite Dangerous than the rest of us 3 put together. The absolutely wonderful Ryan M17 from SDC. Good evening, Ryan.
Hello.
So, the reason we've gathered these people together is because Frontier have asked for some feedback to a second proposal to do with Powerplay. And first things first, guys, that is really what I want to focus on tonight. That second proposal, first of all, whether we like it or not, and then, as I think it probably will turn into, we'll then go into why we think they should go with their first proposal. Because I suspect that's the way tonight's conversation is going to go, but we'll see.
Honestly, there are just 2 changes, and both of them are relatively minuscule, so I don't know if it's warranted the whole, presumably an hour's worth of talk, honestly, but how about we just call it this? Proposal from Powerplay. Let's just go with the whole general thing.
Yeah. Well, Yamiks, would you like to start us?
We're about to talk about so minuscule. It really feels like basically Overwatch when it was in beta and people were just making videos for just theory crafting everything. That's how weird and just no for me anyways. Whatever. That's just my take. I don't care to theory craft much for that.
So
yes.
Do you want to start by taking us through the new proposal? How's that?
Right, so, might as well. So I got that fucking thing open. So, you want me to go through the 2 changes that Sandy
We'll
wrote
start
up?
with that, and then we'll go back to the initial proposal later. Let's start by talking about the new proposal.
Right. So in quick little gists. So what is being proposed in the first place is essentially a compromise between open only and everyone gets the same points in whatever mode they are playing. Now, essentially, open gets full points, and what is being proposed is that solo mode or private mode, either when you switch to them or when you play in them originally and get the points,
there was a team there.
Things, whatever they are,
on your east.
for Powerplay, they are less valued, or rather they just have the normal points, and open play gets a bonus if it's fully done there. That's essentially what's being proposed in the first place, and the second thing is that apparently they want to, or rather, again, I'm just gonna say they, as it is this team, and who knows, maybe Sandy didn't come up with this idea, but in any case, let's just say the team wants to also propose that Powerplay items, modules, would be somewhat, or maybe purchasable or acquirable, or whatever prefix you want to put there, or word, outside of being that, or outside that particular power, or being allied with that power.
Yeah, they clearly wanted to push discussion away from that and to do far more to do with the actual features they're talking about.
Which is very smart from their perspective, right? Because everyone always gets hung up on the little minor details and they miss the whole picture. But I mean, I think that their proposed solution is essentially like it pleases nobody and everyone's angry, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
I said that in my response, didn't I? It feels like it's not pleasing Paul or Peter. It's a
half measure that doesn't fix anything, because people will still play solo. If you can do it in solo, it doesn't matter, because they have, I mean, not saying that everybody does this, right? But people have bots, right? That they do their Powerplay stuff in solo, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, and that puts a lot in the way of Powerplay being legitimate.
Yeah.
Yeah, because why would you bother when someone can just undo what you do with bots?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing, but it's still hacking. That's well, not hacking. It's well, let's see. Technically, well, if you're
it breaches terms of service and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, let's just go with that. Fuck it. It's just you know, the Frontier disapproved gameplay, as they say. Yeah. Right. So let's go with that. So I usually look at the perspective of what is allowed and how it affects. Again, if it's not allowed, then it's up to developers to stop it, not me to contemplate whether or not it would be possible.
But so to be perfectly honest, a very simple way to stop it is to force them out of
inside the
private group and solo. That's what this is. That's part of what this is, undeniably. Yeah. Another problem that is a huge issue in Powerplay is fifth columners, people who join Powerplay groups just to destroy them from the inside. Again, they're working on making that a lot more difficult to do. Yeah? I think that sort of stuff is why this is important. Now, again, going back to the sort of proposal they've come up with, essentially what they're saying is that you weight it so that, and I've heard some people arguing semantics over this about whether you label it as punishing those who play solo or rewarding for open. Whatever. The end result is that by doing power play actions in open, you get a bigger result. You get more merits, you get to do more. Yeah? Now, the problem is that if you weight it far enough, that people are actually going to be tempted out of solo and private group. Oh. I forgot to mute my alerts. I'll do that now. Thank you for the resub, Tom. Super appreciate it. I've just muted the alerts for
in
this.
That case,
I apologize.
I'll do that. The same thing. You didn't mention that, so...
I forgot. I normally do it when we have the proper conversations like this. So.
I see. Fair enough, fair enough.
Yeah, if you weight it so much that people are actually going to come out of solo and private group, then just make it open only. Yeah, because you're doing it to such a degree that there's no point in taking part in solo or private group. If you go the other way, where it's what realistically would be a reasonable bonus for playing in open, it's not going to get people out of private group and solo. So what's the point? It's you're just carrying on with the status quo. Yeah.
This is what the developers tend to do when they have relatively little vision. And this is called compromise.
I mean, so there's nothing in
his little vision.
It literally is. Either open only, or everyone gets the same amount regardless of the mode. There you go. In the middle of it, we got what they
it's a proposal. They're asking for feedback. There's no limited vision there. Yeah, even if they're internally going, we don't think this will work, but you never know, everyone might love it. It's worth talking about, even if you're pretty sure, as I think they were, they would have known that the reaction was generally going to be, no, do it open only. Yeah? But that doesn't mean there's not merit to discussing it. Because as much as anything else, the discussion that spawned from it might come up with a newer idea that is a compromise that works really well. I haven't seen anything like that, but again, it's not outside the realms of possibility. I certainly would rather Frontier discuss things like this. There are so many things in the realms
of possibility that it's amazing.
Well, of course there are. That's kind of that literally what the words mean. Realms of possibility.
Indeed. I tend to work with things that are actually tangible, that are actually there, working, and not just promised or assumed.
Well, at the moment, it's a case
again,
of...
as I said, theory crafting on my part is just...
Well, that's what they're asking people to do. They're asking people to discuss a feature and discuss how they think it would impact, why it would be a good or a bad idea.
Yeah. I mean, I think... So my kind of view on this is I think that FDev knows what they want to do, and they're trying to gauge the reaction, right?
Yep.
Luckily for them... So I don't think... I think that as long as the feedback wasn't overwhelmingly negative, that it's going to go through, right? And it's very clearly not overwhelmingly negative. It's pretty much almost to a person positive, right? Everyone seems to agree that it needs to be open only, as long as the modules get unlocked somehow from being behind that time gate, right? Everyone's pretty much in agreement on that. So it's going to be pretty painless, I think. That being said, I think that the feedback, people are misunderstanding what the feedback is meant to be, right? It's meant to soften the blow, I think, because so often in the past we've seen FDev say, "Hey, what do you guys think about this?" And then everyone says a bunch of different things, and then they end up implementing what they were going to implement anyways, right? That's pretty much what happened with Crime and Punishment. With some notable exceptions, obviously, right? It's not... I don't want to pretend that Crime and Punishment was exactly what they'd proposed, but is essentially what they proposed, despite a lot of feedback that they received. But I mean, luckily for them, this has been pretty well received as far as their suggestions go. There's just a couple of belly achers that have a problem with it. So
yeah.
But go ahead.
I tend to, I tend to agree. I think open only is actually the best way to go. My only caveat to it, and I think this is the one that, like you said, Ryan, seems to be echoed fairly consistently, is that if they do move it to open only, then the modules that are unlocked as part of Powerplay need to have some other method for unlock. Yeah. Now that being said, I think for me anyway, and this may not be accurate for the community at large or even a majority of it, but I think for me, if that was the case, I don't know that I would ever participate in Powerplay. Right, if I had an alternate way to get those modules, even if there was still a time sink involved, right, and still things that need to be done in order to get to that point, because I didn't have to deal with Powerplay to do it, I'd actually be more inclined to do those steps than I would be to go do the Powerplay stuff. And it would basically, part of my I guess concern or thought process here is that by moving to open only and allowing the modules to be acquired through another means, will mean that Powerplay is then effectively abandoned by the majority of the player base, because the one main reward for doing Powerplay, the modules, is no longer something that you need to do Powerplay for, so nobody will just go to the alternate. And you're going to see Powerplay just dwindle into nothingness, and it'll just be small percentages of players doing it, rather than everybody. That being said, I don't have a particular problem with that. In my mind, really, Powerplay in its current version and setting truly only exists for the purpose of unlocking the modules. So, and they should be pulling them out of Powerplay anyway, and they should be making them available through other means anyway. And then revamping Powerplay to actually be more organic with the actual BGS and gameplay as it exists, and not kind of the mundane, oh my god, I have to do Powerplay feel that it is right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think most Powerplay groups are super in favor of those modules being removed, because it leads to a lot of headaches for them, because people will go fortify a system that they don't give a shit about or loses them money just because it's convenient, right? Or people will go undermine in a place where they don't need people to undermine. So they're not going to get much pushback from that. The questions that I have, I mean, I definitely have some concerns about it. Mainly, the blocking feature, right? The blocking feature, if Powerplay goes open only, the blocking feature almost has to be reworked, because using the blocking feature, you could essentially give yourself your own solo instance in open, right?
Oh, that's not the only one, actually. In my chat, when I was talking about this stuff, someone, multiple people actually mentioned the whole idea of port gating, or IP blocking and all that stuff. So isn't that interesting? Isn't it?
I would say though that
at its finest.
I would say though that if people are going to go into their router to block incoming connections, there's nothing. Those are the people that aren't going to be stopped no matter what, right? Yeah, and FDev is the group that FDev needs to take action on that. As far as reworking how the block function works, that will make it easier on people that don't want to go to those lengths, right? Because in my mind, the block function is needed, but it should not work in the way that it works. Blocking should stop actual harassment in the game through text, through whatever. And if you get to the point that you have to block somebody in the game because they're harassing you so much, then that's a term of service violation, and the person harassing you should eat a ban of some sort. But shooting you in a game that is explicitly designed for you to be shot at by other people, shooting you is not worthy of a block, and people should not be able to block people that are shooting at them just because they're shooting at them. There needs to be a reason for that.
Have you seen Dota players?
Lol. Yeah,
no.
Come on.
So no. So what I mean is, if you block, like if the way that I see it, the way that I would want it set up, is if I block you, it blocks you from communicating with me. Right?
Yeah,
we will still
that's
interact.
What most people expect, right?
Yeah.
But there's a hidden feature that people don't know. Might as well just go and explain it real quick if you can.
Yeah. So blocking an elite will modify the instancing. It doesn't modify the code, but it modifies the way that matchmaking works for you and that player. So if you block somebody, it makes you significantly less likely to instance with them in the future. It doesn't stop instancing, but it will make it significantly less likely. Most games, when the block function doesn't affect instancing, doesn't affect matchmaking, it just affects communication, right? So on Discord, when I block somebody, it doesn't prevent us from being in the same server together. It prevents, Yamiks from spamming fucking shitty memes at me, right?
Right?
Yeah.
I'm the biggest memester ever.
Of course.
I hate memes, but whatever. Let's take that example. I love it.
Now, interestingly, Stuart, one of the things that's not a headline feature in 3.1 from our side, but very much is a headline feature for 3.1 from Frontier's side, is the new analytics tools that are going in. And that's totally not got anything to do with the karma system or crime and punishment or detecting cheaters or anything like that. Oh wait.
Well, what I'll say, I am certainly skeptical of that. Because from my understanding,
results.
Yeah, until I see some, well, fuck it, this isn't in the game. So until I see Mock actually get banned for combat logging, I'm not holding my breath. He's probably, for those that don't know of him, every PvPer just groaned because he is by far the most notorious combat logger in the game. Nobody's even close to him. I have personally seen him combat log 30 times, and I report him every single time. Until I see people like him get banned, I don't give a shit. The analytics don't mean anything to me. It's just smoke up my ass.
No, but the analytics give them tools, at least, which they don't have at the moment.
Just like with any other thing in this game, DJ. See, engineering would be a good example, and other things, of course. You can do many interesting things with those tools, but whether or not they're gonna be good, useful, successful,
Yeah.
I
think I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm not holding my breath.
One of the first things they're going to be using it for, they were talking about this the other day, one of the big things that people were trying to moan about with the Powerplay thing with Open Only is that console players have to pay for Xbox and PlayStation Plus, like Xbox Live or PlayStation Plus. Yeah, at the moment, Frontier have no way of... Yeah, at the moment, Frontier's tools do not allow them to see how many of those people that are playing on the PlayStation or Xbox have access to, like, have paid for PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live. Yeah, so they don't know the proportion of their customers who are paying for that. So they don't know how big an issue it is. It could be, as we all suspect it is, that actually 95% of people who own an Xbox pay for Xbox Live and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are people that probably be using their Xbox only to watch Netflix or something like that. And those wouldn't be playing the game like this one.
Yeah, and Gandalf the Grey, no, you don't have to have Xbox Live to play Elite. You need Xbox Live for private group or open. You can play solo on Xbox and PS4 without paying for PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live.
And I would, my opinion on this might be a little bit more controversial than other people's, but I don't give a shit. That's not my problem. If they're not paying for
peasants.
Yeah, if they don't want to pay for Xbox Live, that should not affect my game getting better because they can't pay for Xbox Live. Sorry.
And also, as I stated, it's a non-issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people who play PlayStation 4 or Xbox Elite Dangerous, yeah. I mean, Jesus. the sales of the game are so good that Thrustmaster have released a HOTAS on the Xbox and PS4. Yeah? And that has sold. People who are going out and buying a new controller to play a game on a console are paying for Xbox Live.
Yeah, almost certainly.
I mean, the other side of it too is generally speaking, and I mean, I think everybody here can probably say yes to this, but we don't play a game, right? Like, I don't think anybody here just plays Elite Dangerous.
I play forums.
You know, I play forums.
Forum PvP is a lot of fun.
It's a dangerous game.
I play Discord.
I mean, there's plenty of other games that get played and things like that, especially on console, believe it or not. In fact, actually, I'd say the proportion, in my experience anyway, in the past, of console players who play a multitude of different games is higher than on PC, believe it or not. Even though PC players generally have more overall games, the console players play a wider variety of games on console. And as a result of that, especially with the pay-to-be online features of Xbox and PlayStation, the majority of console players have those. So I would actually say that we're probably talking, I think 95% is probably lowballing it. I would actually put it more to like 98, 99% of the players in Elite Dangerous on console probably have live services. And the ones that don't are going to be a low 1 to 2% of overall player base. That's a guess, obviously. I have nothing to back that up in a hard number standpoint, so that's just my opinion and a guess based on my experiences in the past. So don't take that to heart. But I think that's closer to reality. Which in my mind, if 1% or 2% of your player base in one specific category is unable to access certain features as a result of not having a particular service that's required for those features, at that point, you shouldn't be penalizing or punishing the rest of your community as a whole, or in its entirety, because of 1%.
Yeah, agreed. I really don't think it's a large enough number to concern it. But on the other side of that, pretty neat that Frontier will be able to get a hard and fast answer on that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just as an immediate thing for them getting their tools in, that is something that they will now have a hard and fast answer to, and we may end up being shocked. Frontier may come out and go, actually guys, we do need to worry about this because it turns out only 1 in 10 people who play Elite have got Xbox Live. And we'd all be sitting here going, you fucking what?
Yeah, I would be blown away. I'd be absolutely astounded.
Correct. But at that point, if 9/10 of their user base on Xbox and PlayStation were in that position, then yes, all right, at that point, that's
an
large
issue.
enough.
That is an issue. Absolutely.
Right?
No, absolutely.
But that's not going to be how it's going to go. Let's be really, really honest about that. Where's info about the telemetry additions for 3.1? Yesterday's VOD, Stuart GT, was something we discussed with Prime 9. Was it yesterday or the day before? One of the last couple of days, Prime 9 popped in and talked about it to us. Mm-hmm. So, other than that, I haven't seen any mention of it. It was just something we were talking about with him.
And to be fair, a lot of that kind of stuff is things that, as it doesn't directly affect their player base, I wouldn't expect as a player to ever see that kind of information per se, as like a forum post or like a feature update, right? Like that's not something I would expect to see in a patch notes per se, for two players, right? Because it's not something that affects players; it's something that affects them. And their ability to do things. We don't need to know about it or even care about it because it doesn't change anything on our end of stuff. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see that in patch notes or anything else.
Darth Andrea, whilst you do need to be connected to the internet, trust me, you do not need Xbox Live or PlayStation Plus to play solo on the Xbox or PS4. You do need an internet connection, yes. You still need to be connected to the internet.
And to answer Commander Lothorius's thing there, Laurentius, yes. No, that's not what we're saying. They can absolutely detect whether or not a client is connecting on PC or Xbox or PlayStation. What they have trouble detecting is on the consoles, Xbox and PlayStation, whether or not that specific client has the corresponding premium service package for the console. So for example, with Xbox, do they have Xbox Live services enabled on their account to be able to play in open? That's something they cannot check right now. They can tell that the player is connected to the game, they can tell that the player is on Xbox, but that's all they can tell. The new telemetry data will allow them to now check and say, oh, okay, so they're on Xbox, they're connecting, and they have Xbox Live and can connect through open, or they don't have Xbox Live and can't connect to open or player groups. So that's what the new data is going to give them.
Yeah. And just that tiny bit of information is actually going to be very important to Frontier moving forward, because it will give them a lot more info about how their console players are playing. And like I say, if we get some staggering feedback from that tells us that 9 in 10 console players aren't playing via Xbox Live or PS Plus, then yeah, all right, Frontier do have an issue. But realistically, that's not going to be the thing. And no, Laurentius, it's not that's not the case. It's just Powerplay. All that they're talking about is Powerplay going open only.
Yeah.
That's it.
But I mean, so let's move on from the Xbox stuff and talk a little bit about what we'd like. No, it's fine. It's fine. Because that is absolutely a concern. I mean, it's not my concern; it's FDev's concern. But I think that the most compelling reason that I've seen for moving it into open is just the additional gameplay that it can provide, potentially when paired with Squadrons and the coming Q4 update, right? So like with Squadrons, what I'm envisioning, I guess, is hold on a second, I gotta smoke some idiot.
So
oh no, I'm good now. I'm good.
Just quickly, Spaceman Sprags and Laurentius, it's not BGS. Powerplay, different things. And the reasoning for that, just to quickly go into it, is that BGS is PvE. Yeah, it's cooperative PvE, and you can actually do, like, you know, you can have PvE wars, but it is PvE. The primary point of Powerplay was always to bring in PvP combat.
Yeah.
And it hasn't achieved that yet.
They massively failed, DJ.
It hasn't achieved it. No, it just hasn't achieved it.
Hasn't achieved is a little bit of an understatement, which is what I think Yamiks trying to get to.
Yeah.
It's like just falling down, smashing your face against the rocks behind or down below, then falling again, breaking your ankles, and probably dislocating your arms.
Anyway, here's what I would do. Right, if I were Frontier right now, this is what I would do. Powerplay open only. The block thing, I agree with you. It's an issue, but I kind of get why Frontier do it the way they do it. Whether you agree with it or not, they have obviously decided that. However, it's very simple that when you join Powerplay, your block feature changes. Yeah? And the instancing block is removed. So you can't talk to people that are blocked you, but you can instance with them because guess what? You're in Powerplay. Yeah? So that solves that issue. For me, this would be the first time Frontier and Elite Dangerous has truly given a carrot to the PvP community.
Yeah.
Which I think is a thing that needs to happen. Alongside that, you, as they've suggested in this latest one, either through tech brokers or whatever, you make Powerplay modules available through another route. I like that idea anyway, just because it opens up options. Alongside that, there are lots of nice suggestions in that initial Powerplay thread, talking about things like bringing missions into Powerplay and stuff like that, giving people more options of the way they interact with Powerplay. That, combined with making Powerplay more fluid. Simon said earlier that the primary reason a lot of people do Powerplay is the modules, and that's true, yeah? Make Powerplay more fluid and more interesting, more people are going to take part.
I agree.
Yeah, the honest truth is, I think one thing we can all agree on, and I'll shut up after this, sorry. One thing we can all agree on, I think, and please say after I've said this if you do disagree, but the idea of Powerplay is genius. The idea of a grand strategy game taking place inside of an MMO and it's like this turn-based grand strategy game that works week by week, and meanwhile all the actions are taking place in real time by individual people. That's a really cool idea. And to be honest with you, by doing those few things, I think you really do get to achieving what they set out for Powerplay to be. There you go. I'll shut up now.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
I played better. God bless I do.
I did want to ask Ryan a question, actually.
Sure.
So, I think I know you're kind of going there a moment with the increased play from a PvP perspective by moving Powerplay to open. Was that kind of what you were going with?
Sorry, hold on one sec. I'm in a fight
Behind the
right
rock, really close.
Okay, I
Good
just
job.
want it. Okay, so say that question again. Sorry.
So was your I just want to see if I understood where you're going with your thought process on the gameplay ups, basically, and that by driving potentially driving more players into open, you're going to increase the potential for PvP, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest thing for me is the additional gameplay that it can provide, especially when paired with squadrons, right? That's the biggest thing for me, because you could potentially contract groups to do work for you. Just fucking died. God damn it. You would contract groups to do work for you, right? So if your squadron could pay my squadron for protection in an expansion system, and I send 5 or 6 SDC guys to go sit in super cruise and fuck on anybody that's pledged to a different power, that's very, very compelling gameplay to me, right?
I agree. Yeah, that's I hadn't actually thought of that. That's yeah.
And so what people are doing right now is so a PvP group, Nomads, is working with a federal Powerplay group, and for every PvP kill they get on another rival Powerplay group, like an Imperial group, they'll pay them in wing missions, right? So the PvEers will line up all these wing missions and then complete them with Nomads in their wing and get them like 10 million credits per kill. And so that's how they're doing it today, right? So there's very clearly a demand for this style of gameplay, right? So make it so that the credit transfers won't work from person to person, but from squadron to squadron instead. And depending on how squadron functions work, you could have maybe squadron rebuys come from the group fund or something, right? So I'm not out my rebuy if I die doing Powerplay shit. The squadron will reimburse me for it, and because your squadron is paying my squadron for that, you're actually paying for my rebuy because I'm providing a service for you, so you're covering my expenses, right? Imagine how that would work, how that could work. You're having multiple groups work in unison, and you could have these huge groups that are subcontracting out to other groups, and you start to get these big alliances working together for the same goal. Whereas today, they're only doing it for was essentially a glorified BGS thing, right? Mm-hmm. So there's so much cool gameplay that you could have with that if FDev put the work in to actually get it to work that way.
That's fair. So to follow up on that, I guess maybe the core to question I have then is, how do you think the PvP aspect will be affected if, as I stated before, if the majority of people doing Powerplay now are doing it just for modules, and the modules are separated out from it, and so those people are no longer participating in Powerplay because their interest isn't the Powerplay, it's the modules, so they're going somewhere else for that. Yeah. Do you feel that you would see a reduction in players in that PvP arena in Powerplay as a result of that?
So I mean, I don't think it could possibly get worse than what it is today. Today it's 0, right?
Yeah, it would go up. It's that simple.
But what I'll say is that I don't think that the majority of Powerplay is just people getting modules, right? There are very, very, very dedicated groups that do this stuff all the time. This is their gameplay, right? Is doing Powerplay and watching expansions and doing the math behind it and figuring out where the best place to expand, where the best place is to give up a system potentially, where the best place is to attack an enemy. I think that is way more than people just doing it for the modules, right? Because like I'm technically pledged to somebody, right? But I'm only going to grind merits for 1 week, buy all the modules, and then de-pledge, right?
Right.
But I think that if they're going to move it to open only, that is a step in the right direction, but that's not going to solve the issue of gameplay loops just not being compelling, right? FDev needs to provide the tools, and the players will provide the content.
Yeah.
But they have to give us the proper tools that will provide us with compelling narratives, basically. The ability to create these narratives.
You're saying make the gameplay actually interesting.
Well, and this is where, although, you know, there's a lot of minutiae in what they're saying in the original Powerplay proposal, a lot of what they're doing is moving towards that.
Allegedly.
It looks like they want to make Powerplay... Like, my biggest issue with Powerplay is that it's a quagmire. Right? Nothing changes.
Yeah.
Yeah? It's completely static for the most part. By making it fluid, it becomes a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
Let it get... You know, if the players decide it's going to be that way, let it get to the point that the fucking Federation are pushed back to Earth.
Yeah.
Or the Empire are pushed back to Akhenaten. Yeah, alright, so you can't take over that actual system. Cool. Doesn't mean we can't isolate them there. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And if that's the way the players want to do it, let them do it. And that, a lot of what the stuff, like I've spoken to some Powerplay people, and that's what they're moving towards with those rule changes that they're suggesting. Yeah, they are suggesting a far more fluid Powerplay, where it's far harder to fifth column, basically because it will be very easy to say no to a shit system, which is how fifth columning works for the most part. And then on the other side of it, it allows people to actually see that, like, it lets you see your actions have consequence. Yeah? And that's, again, the biggest issue with Powerplay. Nothing changes, why take part? It's supposed to be this giant galactic war, or not galactic, but you know what I mean, intersolar war with different factions and everything. It just stays the same. Now, if I can lead, like, you know, as an example, if the Sovereignty decided to get involved in Powerplay and we could lead an Imperial charge, fuck yeah, I'd be up for that. That'd be great fun. But right now, why the fuck would I bother? Why would I suggest that to my group when all it's going to be is fortifying? Yeah?
Exactly.
And by introducing extra ways, and Zurin, Powerplay at the moment, my biggest issues with it are that A, there's too much cheating that goes on in it. B, it's too static. And C, and probably my biggest issue, you're far too limited on how you take part in it.
Yeah, it's just a small number of activities that you can do that ultimately end up having no effect on anything really.
Now you open up missions to Powerplay, and all of a sudden you open up every activity in the game.
Yep.
And all of a sudden there's ways, and to be honest, I wouldn't stop there. Right? If you're going to do that, cool. Now let me bounty hunt for Powerplay. Yeah? Let me explore for Powerplay. What, you're going to tell me, especially in the way that the galaxy is right now, that data on systems outside of the bubble isn't valuable to the powers? Come on. Pull the other one, it's got bells on it. These things are all easily explainable in lore. Yeah? So anyone that wants to complain from it from that angle can go away. These things are all fairly easy to implement gameplay-wise. Yeah, it's just adding new numbers to things, essentially. I mean, I'm not a coder. I know it's not as simple as that. But this isn't entire new mechanics being introduced or anything like that. It's adding a new reward to pre-existing mechanics.
Yeah. And I mean, it's... Right? What it boils down to is... we need more gameplay loops. We need compelling gameplay. That's what this all boils down to. Because, I mean, I hate to bring it up, but Eve provides the tools for players to control the narrative, right? And because of that, you get some really cool shit that happens in that game that doesn't happen in other games, right? I don't think that FDev would ever get to the point where they would allow that much control by the players. I think that they like their handcrafted narratives a little bit too much.
I agree.
But more control is good. I'm fine with curated shit happening, right?
Yeah.
But
right.
there need to be some rails on that as far as FDev wholly owning that narrative, because players can do some really, really cool shit. I mean, look, the Salome thing was driven by individuals. It was not driven by FDev, right?
Yep.
It was all driven by individuals.
Backing, which helped, but it was
But that's driven by individuals.
A similar example was when we did Serious Business.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
We had what 30 odd player groups working together in a BGS action, including the Serious Powerplay faction.
Yeah.
Working against the Sirius Corporation. Yeah? And to be honest with you, like, that's one of my biggest complaints with Elite. We did that, and there was nothing from Frontier.
Yeah.
Nothing in-game ever recognized the fact that we destroyed the series. Like, we pushed them back into 2 systems. Yeah? And it never got mentioned. And I do agree with you, but I think as well, Frontier are starting, like, it seems like they're starting to move back to that. Because before, we did things like that, they were noticed and they were commented upon. Yeah?
Yeah.
And
it just seems like a regression. It seems like a regression. But, I mean...
One does have to wonder of the impact of... the impact of Beyond on the storytelling. It's quite clear that a tactical decision was made at Frontier to go back and rework a year's worth of content.
Yeah.
And I think that... my suspicion is that Beyond is going to end where they wanted Horizons to end. That's how it's feeling to me. Yeah? And we're stretching... Hang on. No, and we're stretching out... I'm not talking... Yamiks, I'm not talking from a mechanic point of view. I'm talking from a... words, English, lore, story. From the in-game story point of view. I get the feeling that we're in a lull because they're waiting to... the overarching narrative is waiting for the developers to catch up. That's how it feels to me. Yeah? I may be completely wrong about that.
And see, the cool thing could be, though, that if they invested the time in allowing more player-driven content, there wouldn't have to be a lull in the narrative.
Yeah.
Right? They wouldn't have to worry about that. Because
things like Serious Business would have taken it up.
Yeah, because you get groups working in concert with each other to accomplish things together, and then you get those groups, the opposite groups working against it, and now you have stories taking place within the Elite universe that FDev don't have to give a fuck about. They don't have to do anything. It's all created for them. It's I mean, look at all the press that the Salome event got, right?
Yep.
All the press that the Salome event got. And FDev realistically didn't have to do shit. They promoted it, right?
And that was it.
They went along with it, but they didn't have to do anything.
And they put in a couple of in-game assets.
Yeah.
A couple of small in-game assets.
Yep. They didn't have to do anything. And that was handed to them on a platter. Right? That kind of stuff, you can't tell me that there aren't players willing to do that. You know? Because we've both taken part in group in organized stuff like that.
The hell, I've run stuff like that.
Yeah, I've sabotaged stuff like that.
Right? That I was running.
But and I mean that's the coolest part of the game for me, is being able to participate in that subterfuge, right? Being able to try and derail other parts of the game. And for you, it's being able to organize parts of the game, right?
Yep.
Providing those tools would go such a long way to easing the burden on them for having to move the story forward by themselves, basically.
Well, and it also really reinforces the story built by the players concept.
Yeah.
That I mean, let's be fair, this is one of the few games where a lot of the lore and story is influenced by player action, right? I just think they could, like, personally, I think they can take it that step further, like you're saying, like give the tools to the players to create even more narrative and more activity and more content through that player base, and you get an even more organically growing universe of content and of lore and of history. Like you said, at that point, they don't really have to do anything other than just acknowledge that it occurred in the game. And if they want to mix things up at any point, they get to.
Yeah.
And they can toss in random things to just take whatever plot you're building to go, like, take Serious Business, for example. Say we did something similar again, right? And they go, that's going to break something. So we're going to throw them this curveball or whatever that completely derails them, but it actually adds to the overall substance of the event,
or
and
even
of the lore.
And you could even have FDev instigate some of this stuff, right? Where they say, like, not saying that this should necessarily be some, like, one specific person's job, but that it almost seems like that's what a community manager should do, right? Is to manage the community, where you say, okay, shit's been a little too easy recently, so I'm gonna reach out, I'm gonna put some feelers out to a couple of player groups and see what kind of shit we can stir up, right? And so you can have FDev instigating and providing the initial framework for conflict, and then kind of seeing how it shakes out.
You mean like when we were dumped into a war with the entirety of the Federation?
I mean, I don't follow that shit, so yeah, sure.
No, literally, and this goes back to regression, unfortunately. Yeah. They did used to do things like that.
Yeah.
We are a perfect example of it. The Imperial Inquisition was put into a war with the entirety of the Federation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
without any
that
knowledge
kind of stuff would be so
on our
cool.
behalf.
And see, like, let's say you figure out, you wake up one day and it's all out war, and you say, fuck, I don't have enough people for this. There's
literally a clip on Twitch of Tom going to me, you need to read the community goals from this week, DJ. And I was like, yeah, whatever. He's like, no, DJ, you need to read the community goals now. And I'm like, Tom's never very forceful, so I was like, wait, what? And then I go into it, I click a link. And the next thing you hear me say is, we're doing fucking what now?
Yeah.
And that was when we discovered we were in a war against the Federation. Shit like that was amazing.
Yeah, and so, and again, if the tools are provided, you wake up one day and see there's a community goal, and now you're fucked, and you say, shit, I don't have enough people on hand to fight this war, so I need to figure something out. Let me put some feelers out to whatever group, and let's get some more bodies in this, because we need to do BGS shit, because we need PvPers to protect our BGS players. We need this, we need that, There's so many cool things that can result from that with just minimal investment on their part. But they have to have the foresight to say, yeah, this is the kind of shit that we want to start having happen. Because you end up with, I mean, how many articles have you read about some crazy shit in EVE popping off because of these long-held alliances and all this shit, right? How many times have you seen that?
Yep. Part of this, though, is they need to compress the players into a smaller play space for this to work.
Well, it's not like that's being geared up for.
Yeah.
Like that really is, for me, another key part of this. But I think that's why they're doing these Powerplay changes. I think that's entirely linked to getting rid of the bubble's too big. If you want player interaction, the bubble is just too big. Even with these power play changes, the honest truth is the vast majority of people will be able to go about their power play never seeing a player that's in adversary to them, if they see a player at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
because the bubble is too big.
I mean, it definitely seems like they're gearing up for some crazy shit that's about to pop off, because they've been very, very cryptic about what is in this next update. So I would not be surprised for the Thargoid stuff to really start taking off, because they always do betas before. I mean,
and there's no beta.
Yeah, there's no beta, and they said the Q3 update, they've got 24 days to figure it out. So.
And Spaceman Sprags, this is a really interesting question, and one that I normally I have trouble answering questions like this, but in this context I can answer it really easily. I made these predictions 3 years ago, before anyone at Frontier knew who I was, and I was streaming to about 10 people. No, I have no proof of that other than that there's quite a lot of those people still about who will quite happily go, yeah, I actually heard him say that. And I haven't shut up about it for 3 years either. What they showed me, what I can tell you, because obviously I'm under NDA about it, what I can tell you is that it had nothing to do with story in any way, shape or form. They were very careful not to reveal anything like that to me. It was, the only thing that I've seen that still isn't in the game is a major mechanic, and I'm not allowed to say anything else.
You won't hurt me. There's people west of it.
But that's literally all I'm allowed to say.
Yeah.
I mean, cover.
That's a conversation.
Outside.
Unfortunately, that's one of those ones where I just have to be like, sorry, but the whole, us being shipped out to Colonia, that had nothing to do with FDev. I've been saying that long before I ever met anyone there. And I still firmly believe it. And I still firmly believe, as I did when I made the prediction, that it's the best possible thing for the game.
And I agree completely. So you've been playing, I think everybody here has been playing Elite longer than me, especially in a group environment, right? So with player group, with other players, cooperatively. It actually hasn't really been until very recently that I've delved into that area of it, and I can say at that level that yeah, the bubble needs to burn, and we all need to go into a much smaller space. And I don't even play in open, like I you know, because I'm streaming very often, and as content creators know, you play in open when you're live streaming or making videos or anything else. Very interesting things happen. Very interesting things happen as a result of that, and sometimes they're very fun, interesting things that happen, and you have a great time with them, and sometimes they're not. So I very rarely am in open, only from a standpoint of avoid the not fun portions of that. But I still agree that condensing the player base down to the overall player base down to a smaller space is a good thing for the game, is a positive. Not to mention the additional potential gameplay aspects that can come from that whole event. So all of it is a positive in my mind for the game as a whole and for the players. Whether you're in open or solo or private group or any of it, I think it's an overall positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, I'm just fucking stoked for this, to be honest. Like, there's so many PvPers that are waiting for this update to drop to come back into the game to take part in this kind of stuff, right? I mean, like, there are people that haven't played in a year and a half, probably, that are currently engineering their ships for this, right? That have not done engineering pretty much since it dropped, right? There's so much cool stuff that can come from this, but FDev's gotta come through with it, because if they don't, I mean, we've said this before, and unfortunately it actually seems like it's true every time, that if they keep not paying attention to the player versus player gameplay stuff, and when I say player versus player, I don't necessarily mean people just shooting at each other, right? just the player conflict in the game. If they don't start paying attention to this stuff, you're going to start seeing more and more tenured players, old players that have been playing for a long time. You're going to start seeing them disappearing more quickly than they have at any other point in the past, I think. I mean, shit, within the last 3 months, you've had major PvP groups up and evaporate because everyone just got burned out playing the game, and there's nothing keeping us in, right? Other than just we like shooting at other people.
It's that carrot moment, isn't it? It's like I said earlier, whether you and this is something that bugs me. A lot of PvEers will try and complain that the PvP community gets listened to too much. Bullshit. Name me one positive thing that has been given to the PvP community since this game launched.
Reverb Cascade Torps.
Those are the fucking worst. They're great fun for us because
wings.
There's a...
Yeah, wings, Honcho. Okay, yeah, Honcho,
that's fair.
I will agree with that.
That's
wings.
fair.
Yes, that is a fair comment. That genuinely is. Wings.
Name another.
Powerplay was supposed to be, but it didn't work. Yeah.
But what I'll say is there are people that, like I said, there are people that I know have not played the game in close to a year and a half that are currently engineering their ships specifically so that they can come back and do this stuff. It's such a cool... It'll be such a cool moment to have, you know, the PvP community essentially splinter along these kinds of lines, right? Where you get people saying...
The interactions between groups like us and groups like you is going to be fascinating. It honestly is. That sort of thing, and you know, PvP has been, as you're fully aware, the sovereignty has been taking more of a part in the PvP side of things. That's only going to go up if they do this. The amount of people who have come to me and gone, yeah, I'd be up for that. Who are we going to pledge to?
Yeah.
I keep getting asked who we're going to pledge to. That actually presents a massive problem for it. Fuck off, Arissa. Pretender to the throne.
Space Khaleesi, let's do it.
Space Khaleesi, I think not.
Well,
the only
so
man
like
is Denton. Realistically, it's Denton for us if it was one of the Imperials, but more realistically, we'd have to look at the Independents. You know, do we end up going out for Ocon Delane because he suits our purposes?
So, I just got a message that so there was a message posted in the Mobius here. DJ, I'm gonna PM this to you so you can post this, or you can show it.
Yeah.
Let me post this real quick.
Oh dear.
So, let me know when you have it up, so I can talk a little bit more about this, because I guess we can start talking about it now.
Okay. Oh, hi. Okay.
So read. If you I can read it to your viewers, or you can read it.
Go for it. I don't have it either, so.
Okay, so Mobius have stated civil unrest and pending war in Apatham cease all actions for the foreseeable future. Council have had long and hard deliberations on our ability to counteract the attacks upon us. The BJS is currently arranged that if a group secretly attacks our many systems in a coordinated fashion, the number of our systems in itself leaves us vulnerable to a point whereby, even with our great support, we're always firefighting one crisis or another. We cannot retaliate in kind because the group doing this has chosen not to make themselves known, and hence not become targets for us. This cowardly way of manipulating the BGS left us no choice but to call a halt to BGS activities. One day we may return to fight a fairer system of BGS play, but for now we will just have fun.
So,
go make credits, engineer ships and modules, go prospecting, go exploring, arrange OOM meetups and at a planet or station for the Order. That's sad.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
So, there's something very ironic in that statement to me. We cannot retaliate in kind because the group doing this has chosen not to make themselves known and hence not become targets for us.
Oh yeah, the irony is not lost on me.
Well, and there's a little bit more irony to that because now that it has been noticed, SDC is claiming responsibility for this.
Oh, live
Really?
now on stream.
Yes. Breaking
Right?
news.
This is your reveal to Mobius.
Our reveal. I believe Harry has already made this known to them. He just pinged in our OPSEC channel about 5 minutes ago about it. The irony is purposeful.
So, have you been attacking in the open?
I will neither confirm nor deny that. But it would be really ironic if that we were not known to them because we were in open and they were in private group. Would it not?
That would be really?
That would be a strange turn of events, wouldn't you say?
That's a way to announce that.
Yeah.
A very strange turn of events. So that is reason one why Powerplay should be forced into open. Because you can be attacked in a way that you could not feasibly see it and could not respond to it. Not know who's attacking you, not know when, not know why.
To be honest, I'm more surprised you guys have been doing actual BGS work, but...
So what I'll say is I cannot confirm that any particular SDC, I cannot confirm or deny that any particular SDC commander did BGS work because that would severely harm our reputation. But
Obviously. Yep.
We have friends that are very intimately familiar with BGS.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we had to flip a system for PvP Hub, didn't we?
I wouldn't possibly be able to comment on any such situations. Kappa.
Nope.
Just kind of derailed this, didn't I?
A little bit,
No
but
way.
I'll forgive you.
Behind the
We'll
rock
circle
improvements.
back round in a moment.
Yeah, no worries.
I put
Yeah.
something in Discord for you, DJ, by the way, as a side note.
Okay, and well played. Interesting. Was that in your chat?
That was from Yamiks' chat on the YouTubes.
Somebody in Yamiks' chat thinks that they've found the final piece to the puzzle for Raxler.
Oh,
Good
shit.
luck.
Best of luck to you.
Yeah.
We're
If
all
indeed-
rooting for you.
No, no, I'm not.
I'm not being sarcastic at all.
I know where it is. One day. So,
No, this is hold on. This is turning into Half-Life 3. Okay, for you, like you literally, it's to the point now that you can't show anybody because the hype is just too much. That
And
there's
it's
no way it
hilarious.
could live up to it. That's all I'm saying.
So, right. I do very quickly need to run and grab a drink, but I'm just going to the fridge to grab a can of Coke, so I will only be a second. Do forgive me for that, and then we'll come back, and as long as people don't mind hanging around for a bit longer, we'll carry on talking about Powerplay a bit more.
Sure.
Sounds good to me.
Cool. I'll be right back. I'll leave Yamiks in charge. He hasn't
Oh,
been
God.
shouting he hasn't been shouting for a while. I feel like something's wrong.
There's plenty of wrong, DJ. There's plenty. Oh my. So basically, for the last hour or half hour at least, I was just listening to the three guys just rank themselves to death about basically stuff that really a filthy casual like myself don't really care or give any fucks about. So yeah, also theory crafting because again,
Right,
I
but
shall take no part in that.
Well, hold on though. This is a fair question though.
Yes.
Do you care about any of the modules that you get through Powerplay currently? Like, are any of the modules you've gone after, you're going after, you will go after, for any reason?
Not really. Frankly, not really. I mean, sure, prismatics. I don't have prismatics because, again, I care very little about getting them. Yes, it will bring my wank tank to insane amounts of shield strength, sure, but realistically speaking, there goes my SRV. Okay. I don't have any fuel, so I'm just gonna be... Oh wait, no, never mind, I have plenty. Okay, okay, anyways.
Yes, Corndog, he said wank tank.
Yes, the
wank tank.
This is his normal reference.
This is the normal reference. So, well, but here's my question to you, Yamiks. So, would your opinion on those modules, as far as whether or not they're worth getting, change if the way they're acquired changes? So you don't really care necessarily about the prismatics, plus having to do Powerplay to get them is a pain in the ass. Don't bother. But if now all of a sudden Powerplay isn't part of the deal, right? You can go get them through a tech broker or some other mechanism.
So we're basically suggesting that now instead of basically being punished for playing, now you're gonna have your personal narrative take place? Really? No? Fuck no. Oh, see, okay, well, okay, that was an example, but, yeah. I mean, well, it's just acquiring things differently. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's a different way to do it. But if you didn't have to deal with Powerplay to get prismatic shields, would you be more likely to go for them and try to get them?
Well, of course I would be more likely to go for them because again, they are at least at that point achievable and accessible. I mean, at least that way I could make something stupid like a goddamn fighting mining lance equipped fucking. So yeah, that would make for a funny thing. But okay, so for me, Powerplay's modules are just a little. Well, to me, I see that basically as a reward they put in, yet another reward to attempt at least some sort of interest from folks to participate in it or do it. The same thing goes with the whole monthly or for weekly pay or whatever you call it. It's again weekly allowance or whatever. Be that ranks themselves or their bonuses. All of it is just as DJ likes to say, carrot on the end of the stick. And no, see, when that stick is more often used not to tempt you but to beat you. Well, whatever that fucking carrot may be, I'm not gonna participate in this disgusting piece of garbage that they call Powerplay and try to... Again, those of you that want to have really a lot of fun, oh my, you can go to Elite Dangerous's YouTube channel, go back a couple of years, back to the start almost, and look at those promotional videos they did for Powerplay. Everyone's so smiley, everyone's so happy, everyone's so excited to talk about it, and since I don't have really that much insight as to what went on back then, as to how it was developed or who developed it or came up with it, I really can't comment too much, but the team who did at least design it, who thought up the whole carrot system for indulging or rather nudging people to do some PvP stuff, were absolutely brain dead. I mean, who really thinks that, first of all, punishing players is a good idea for not participating in something?
Yeah, no, that Powerplay failed.
That's only one.
To be honest with you, this isn't... Powerplay failing isn't even a discussion, because, let's be honest, we wouldn't be where we are right now with these discussions around Powerplay if it was at all successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Powerplay failed. Frontier know that, we know that, everyone knows it. I know you like your dead horses, Yamiks, but that one's definitely a dead horse. The dead horse this week is how do we make it not dead?
Captain Obvious. Good job. Good job. I definitely.
But okay, so you say open only wouldn't bring you back, or wouldn't make you take part in Powerplay.
No.
What would? What would? Seriously,
Okay,
what would actually make you take part in Powerplay? What makes it interesting?
Alright, so the whole... my 2 cents, as they have been throughout the whole proposal time. I see Sandy posting the proposal, and I think to myself, is this basically what they... Is this the way they want to really bring people back? Is this the best they can do? Or is this just a little nugget or whatever they want? Or, well, I usually think of these things that they promote, or not promote, but post and talk about to be the more important things. And to me, these are absolutely nowhere near close to what is important. Or, well, the gameplay feature, if you will, if you can call Powerplay a gameplay feature, or technically it is.
It is.
There are massive issues with it, and putting it all open ain't gonna change, you know, how shit it is.
But that isn't the sole thing they've suggested. To suggest that that's all they've said they're gonna do.
They suggested are going to fix it.
So again, how would you fix it? Because for me, by introducing missions and getting rid of the quagmire, basically stopping it from being World War I fucking trench warfare where nothing ever changes, by doing those 2 things, you actually achieve what Powerplay set out to do, no?
Okay, you put in, let's say a Powerplay is a hammer. Okay. Okay, so you're gonna use you have a hammer, you're gonna use it, sure, but then again there are other tools to be used, and perhaps there are better hammers to be used, or, well, better things to do, aside from using a hammer.
Well, right? No, I actually called it a cannon.
No, the point is, Powerplay really doesn't have any incentive. Okay, fine, you put it in open, okay, fine, so what? I'm still gonna go and do bounty hunting on my own, or perhaps explore, or trade, or do other things. There are literally just no reasons for me to give a fuck about the PvP side of it, because, well, it's not interesting. It's open, okay, fine, so what? What's next? Is there any, you know, gameplay changes? Is it exciting to do these things? Again, not even from a lore perspective. There are literally just paragraph at maximum of lore between each power. And not even from a lore perspective people really care about it. At least I don't. You know, I say that I go for Arissa. I tend to do so because, again, it makes for a more funner, I suppose, narrative when I tell a story of something, you know. Sure, but when I read about Arissa, at least from the game, in-game, you know, tools and other things, it's just, there's nothing about her, there's nothing that she does. Okay, fine, in Galnet there's a little bit of lore, but okay, that's one example. From lore perspective, there's no real reason to participate in this PvP, you know, massacre battle thingamajig. From reward perspective, there's also no reason to participate because because again, okay, fine, you're gonna get those Powerplay modules in different ways, then that's even less of a reason to participate in it. So, what is else left there aside from just doing PvP because you like it? Right?
Sound microphone muted.
Hey, Bloosh. Sorry, it's top 5. Did you see how I got those guys, by the way?
Yeah.
Five left. And a full boost. We definitely have some people to our west or northwest.
250, two guys behind the rocks.
Yeah, I saw one.
One knocked.
Yep. We can't go kill him, but we gotta move real quick in.
Yeah, I'm getting shot, but he missed.
190 somewhere. I don't see him.
He's pushing me.
Got him.
Good job.
Two guys, 230. Downed. One. He's behind the rock. His buddy's dead. There we go. Zone got him.
He's dead. I saw him, I was about to shoot.
Oh shit. Jesus.
Yeah, you were on top of the bridge. I was behind, under. When I saw you going up, I was like, I'm gonna rush and do noise under the bridge.
Yeah. They had no idea where the fuck I was until I killed that last guy.
You was, yeah, you was suppressed. You were suppressed.
Oh man.
I'll be right back. Going to the bathroom.